3 days before the extreme cold apocalypse, my best friend and I bought 2 stones at an antique stall. She gained spatial abilities, I gained beauty-enhancing abilities. My best friend looted an entire supermarket's worth of supplies, but after revealing her space, she was tied up and became the team's living food storage. With my peerless beauty, I attracted the admiration of all the opposite sex in the team, becoming the group's favorite. I took advantage of the team being on a mission to untie the ropes binding her, intending to help her escape, but my best friend went into a mad laughter and released the supplies, crushing me to death. It's all your fault for choosing the beauty ability, that's why I'm so miserable. When my lungs were crushed to the point of rupture, I was reborn on the day I went shopping with my best friend. This time, I won't leave a single one for you. While my best friend Wine Lily was still laughing beside me, boasting about finally being reborn to make choices, I swiftly bit my finger without hesitation, dripped the blood onto 2 pitch-black stones. Almost the instant the blood soaked in, an endless, vast space appeared in my mind. As for how my appearance changed, I didn't pay any attention at all. I snatched it just to prevent my cousin from using it to cause me trouble in the future, with such ample space. I no longer need to flatter and fawn like in my past life, living at the mercy of others' moods. As for my so-called best friend, how naive, after being reborn, who would still settle for choosing between just 2 options. Villains die from talking too much. After she calmed down from the overwhelming joy of rebirth and prepared to bind her supernatural ability, she discovered that the 2 stones had already shattered. With my hands in my pockets, I couldn't help but chuckle at her stunned expression. Xiangqing, you've been reborn too, haven't you? My best friend lunged at me, grabbing my arm and frantically questioning me. Do you think you'd believe me if I said no? Time is running out. If you want to stand here and waste time arguing with me, I'm not interested in keeping you company. With just 3 days left, even if there's space, I can barely manage to stock up on supplies. There's no time for things like renovating the house. Who has time to act out some melodramatic soap opera with her? I forcefully shook off my mentally unstable best friend. I took a taxi to the car rental company and rented a van. Although the space could store supplies, before the apocalypse, I still needed to keep a low profile to avoid causing panic and drawing investigations. After renting the car, I drove straight to the largest agricultural wholesale market nearby. I still have over 2 million in available funds at my disposal. A large portion of it is money my parents gave me to buy a home near the office for my convenience. Thinking of this, I made a video call in the family group chat. Even though it was a workday, my parents answered the call immediately. Xiaoqing, didn't you go to look at houses today? Did you find any that caught your eye? Mom asked with concern, while Dad listened attentively. Dad, Mom, what I'm about to tell you is very serious, and you must believe me. In 3 days, an extreme cold apocalypse is coming, and it will last for at least several months. I'm currently on my way to stock up on supplies. You need to go home immediately and find a contractor to make renovations. Do as much as you can to improve insulation. Don't hesitate to spend money on this. Also, I had a falling out with my best friend Wang Lily. She's come back from rebirth. In her past life, she killed me, and now her mind isn't right. Don't believe anything she says. And also, the news about the extreme cold must not be leaked. I'm afraid our family might be in danger. I poured out everything to my parents in one go. If there's anyone in this world who would trust me unconditionally and never betray me, it could only be them. My parents saw that my expression wasn't joking, and although concepts like the extreme cold apocalypse and rebirth were beyond their understanding, they still chose to believe me. It took my parents only a minute to process the information I had shared. They immediately took leave from work, told me to stay safe outside, and said they would contact a renovation company right away. Moreover, they thought of things more thoroughly than I did. Dad said that since the best friend is also a reincarnated person, she's a dangerous element and can't live in a place she knows about. Mom, worried that the money wouldn't be enough, decided to list the house originally worth over 4 million at a rock-bottom price with the real estate agency. Considering safety and secrecy, Dad suggested using the remaining savings to rent a bomb shelter in the mountains and hire someone to reinforce it. The bomb shelter is naturally warm in winter and cool in summer, with plenty of space, making it perfect for a refuge base. I believe my parents can handle the logistics at home. After hanging up the phone, I parked the truck and walked to the stall to start shopping. Beef, lamb, pork, chicken, fish, and even large shrimp. I ordered 500 jin of each. I also bought a good amount of various ready-made products. Cabbage, potatoes, radishes, spinach, coriander, and other vegetables were also purchased in quantities sufficient to feed 3 people for 2 years, considering my mom's love for gardening. I also bought plenty of seeds in cultivation pots, basic condiments like soy sauce, salt, vinegar, And some pickled vegetables weren't forgotten either. The most essential staples, rice, flour, and coarse grains, were also bought in bulk by the bag, almost as if I were clearing out the entire market. I also bought other essential supplies for the extreme cold apocalypse, such as cotton quilts, drinking water, down jackets, charcoal, hand warmers, toilet paper, and personal care sets. Considering that after the extreme cold, heavy snow will cover everything, base stations will be damaged. Water and electricity will fail, and mobile signals will be lost. I also purchased functional emergency shelter equipment like shovels, candles, walkie-talkies, batteries, solar charging panels, radios, compasses, and maps. After ensuring basic living necessities, I bought a pile of novels and board games for entertainment. I recalled how the female protagonists in apocalyptic novels stock up on cat litter for toilet use, so I also stocked up on some. Anyway, the space is more than enough. And it even has a freshness-preserving function, so there's no need to worry about storage, expiration, or spoilage of supplies. After carefully filling the van, I drove around the area before storing the supplies in the space, then headed back to the wholesale market. By the time I left the wholesale market, there was still over $1.5 million left in my card balance. There are still medicines, gasoline, self-defense tools, and other items left to purchase. These supplies are difficult to stockpile, so I plan to spend the remaining 2 days gathering them. The night grows increasingly gloomy, with most shops closed, making it hard to buy anything. I drove the minivan to the family room at the hotel my parents had booked to meet up with them. In my previous life, I didn't know the extreme cold apocalypse was coming. When the temperature plummeted, I happened to be sent on a business trip to the neighboring city by my company. Seeing the weather forecast with a red alert for low temperatures, I thought it was just an ordinary cold wave. Little did I expect that the next day, heavy snow would seal off the city. The snow piled up high enough to cover the shrubs on both sides of the road. No matter how much I increased the fare, no driver was willing to take me back. My parents and I were separated like this, living in 2 different places, until later, when communication broke down completely. We were forced to lose contact before the hotel supplies ran out. A group of people who claimed to be a civilian rescue team found me. When I joyfully followed them out, I saw my best friend tied up in the trunk of their car, with nothing but beauty and no strength to even restrain a chicken. I immediately realized the truth. Encountering these people was the most terrifying thing in the apocalypse. I pretended to be innocent and manipulative in front of them, just to survive and to rescue my best friend. I endured their groping and teasing. I was relieved that I hadn't revealed my parents' location to them from the start. Little did I expect that the best friend I went through so much to save would end up treating me like an enemy. Fortunately, in this life, I not only have a space to collect supplies but can also stay with my parents to face the extreme cold apocalypse together. Dad, Mom, I'm back. Working non-stop all day left me with no energy to dwell on those troublesome people and matters. Seeing my safe and sound parents again, a mix of emotions, grievance, excitement, joy, shame overwhelmed me, and I couldn't help but burst into tears. Yet, my parents looked at me with strange expressions. Oh right, I now have the bonus of a beauty superpower, and my appearance has completely transformed. I used to barely score a 7 with makeup, but now I can debut as a celebrity even without it. I somewhat awkwardly explained to my parents about seizing opportunities after being reborn. Xiaoqing, you did nothing wrong. Being kind to her would be cruel to yourself. My parents are pleased with my growth and are generous with their praise. No matter how your appearance changes, it will never change the fact that you are our daughter. My nose tingled with emotion as I hugged my parents tightly, crying until I was sobbing. It feels so good to be together as a family. Silly child, there's nothing to cry about. With Mom and Dad here, even if the sky falls, it won't be your turn to hold it up. Mom pulled out a tissue to dry my tears, patting my back to soothe me. There, no more crying. Dad, seeing my eyes red from crying, felt heartbroken too. It was all his fault for not protecting his daughter well enough. I shared my stockpiling list with my parents to check for any gaps or missing items. Xiaoqing, if it really turns out as you said, with heavy snow sealing off the city, then we should buy some skiing equipment, as well as lifeboats and assault boats. After heavy snow, there's bound to be severe flooding. As Dad shared his thoughts, I took out a pen and jotted them down in my notebook. It wasn't until my stomach started growling that I realized I hadn't eaten anything since the afternoon. There happened to be a barbecue restaurant still open downstairs at the hotel. After a quick tidy up with my parents, we headed downstairs for some barbecue, biting into the fragrant lamb skewers again. I was so happy I could almost scream, glancing at my vibrating phone. It was another unknown caller. One Lily really won't give up her wicked intentions. I've already blocked all her contact methods, yet she still found a way to harass me. Xiangqing, you wouldn't want your secrets to be made public, would you? If you don't want me to expose you online, find a way to return my supernatural ability to me. In my past life, I was just too jealous of you and accidentally killed you. I never thought you'd be so heartless as to steal my supernatural ability. The apocalypse is coming soon. How am I supposed to survive without my ability? You're deliberately committing murder, you know that. I stared speechlessly at the text message from one Lily, cursing her under my breath as an idiot. She killed me by accident, but me sparing her is forcing her to die. People are truly hypocritical enough. So what if there's no supernatural ability? We already know the apocalypse is coming, even without a space. Stocking up ahead of time would still allow one to live more comfortably than ordinary people during the apocalypse. Recalling the words she said before my death in my past life, I can only laugh at how ridiculous they were. She only saw those men's sweet words to me, but not their vulgar behavior. Even when it came to eating a bite of instant noodles or drinking a sip of water, if it required exchanging with my body, she still saw it as flirting. I remember when we were in college. All the boys who wanted to get close to me were turned away by her, under the pretense of being best friends. She insisted we stay single together. In high school, under the excuse of preventing me from puppy love, she tore up the confession letters in my drawer. Everything had its telltale signs, and I was foolish enough to wait until a second chance at life to see her true colors, ignoring the messages. I happily enjoyed the barbecue with my parents, pretending to be a food streamer. I ordered enough for nearly 20 people and had the owner deliver it upstairs. The barbecue here is quite tasty, perfect to stock up for future cravings. Only after leaving the barbecue joint did my mom ask, puzzled, why I ordered so many skewers when I was already full. Mom's not blaming you for spending money recklessly, but wasting food is shameful. Xiaoqing, I smiled mysteriously and, after confirming there were no surveillance cameras in the hotel, stored all the freshly delivered skewers into my space. My parents stared in shock at the barbecue skewers that had just vanished before their eyes, speechless. Even though I'd told them about my supernatural ability, they had only heard of it, never seen it in action. Experiencing that feeling firsthand is even more magical. Dad, Mom, my spatial ability isn't just for storing things, it can also keep food fresh. Whatever state it's in when I put it in is exactly how it comes out. All the supplies I stockpiled this afternoon are in the space. I don't want to keep secrets from the people closest to me. Parents shouldn't be kept at arm's length. Xiaoqing, this is so practical. Even if Mom and Dad are no longer around in the future, we can rest assured. I immediately dismissed Mom's words with a pa. Although your space is very useful, we still need to keep some supplies outside, just in case the space disappears one day. We won't be too panicked. Though Dad was also excited, he still reminded me, your father is right, we can't rely entirely on the space. I raised my hand and swore that I would use the space reasonably, not thinking of living off it just because of my special ability, with my parents by my side. My first night after rebirth was surprisingly peaceful and sweet. After breakfast, I continued to drive the minivan for shopping, while my parents completed the transfer procedures and took the money to find a renovation company. Under the power of money, the renovation company dispatched teams to work in shifts, ensuring the optimal transformation of the air raid shelter within 30 hours based on the existing materials. The decorators reinforced the overall structure, added seismic supports, repaired cracks, and implemented soundproofing and anti-seepage treatments. The entrance was equipped with multiple sealed doors, providing protection against radiation, fire, and theft. A hidden door was left as an emergency passage, installed a filtered ventilation system to prevent toxic gases and dust from entering, separated the living area from the functional zones, at Mom's request. Hydroponic facilities were added to the planting area. The renovation tools also came with a diesel generator, plenty of diesel fuel, as well as a first aid medical kit and common medications. While my parents were busy with construction, I went to the extreme sports specialty store. 10 sets of skiing and diving suits were purchased, along with a considerable number of life rings, assault boats, and kayaks. Visited several more pharmacies to buy enough medicine and health supplements, since each person is limited to purchasing no more than 40 liters of gasoline per day. I had to go door to door in neighborhoods near gas stations to promote my cause, offered laundry detergent and eggs as incentives for others to make purchases on my behalf. Although I was chased up by several places as a fraud, fortunately, the outcome was good. I managed to collect a total of 2,000 liters of gasoline. In the end, I bought quite a few highly lethal tools at the hardware store. On the way back, I passed by the flower, bird, fish, and insect market. The space can't sustain living things, but there's a place in the bomb shelter where they can be kept. Under my boss's gaze that clearly thought I was an idiot, I bought the fish tank and replaced the ornamental fish with edible crucian carp and grass carp. I also bought 6 meat rabbits and 20 quail. With the supplies all purchased, I started focusing on improving my quality of life. Dad loves alcohol. Buy the junk food, milk tea, and cola I love. Buy the pastries and cakes Mom loves. Buy it all. 1.5 million squandered down to just 3,000 left. When I returned to the hotel, my parents were still supervising the construction of the air raid shelter. I pulled out a bag of cucumber-flavored chips, opened my tablet to download various movies and novels, and lounged with my legs crossed while scrolling through my phone. I opened a short video app, and the first thing that popped up was one posted by one Lily. In the video, her hair was disheveled. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked particularly haggard. She tearfully recounted being betrayed by her best friend, who stole her supernatural power. She also claimed to have the gift of prophecy, saying that the apocalypse would arrive in one day. To prove herself, she will go live tomorrow night. Has the blogger been reading too many novels, talking about the apocalypse and superpowers? If you can predict the future, why not tell me when I'll win the lottery? Blogger, I believe you. I always knew the safe house I built and the supplies I stockpiled would come in handy. Profit. Does the blogger also play the forward game? Apart from a few Doomsday enthusiasts, no one else in the comments believed what she said. One Lily's face twisted into a ferocious expression as she replied to the skeptical comments. Tomorrow night at 9, there will be a nationwide temperature drop. Don't ask why. This deliberately mysterious statement still managed to hook a bunch of curious onlookers. Brothers, save a spot for me. The city I'm in, W City, is like a little furnace. The weather forecast shows temperatures rising steadily in the coming days. If there really is a big temperature drop, I'll follow the streamer, begging to be kicked. +99. Right now I really feel like going to one Lily's rented place and killing her, with her big mouth. The so-called bombshell she's going to drop in the live stream must be about me. On the first day of my rebirth, I also thought about informing the government, but I'm just an unknown ordinary person. Even if I posted articles online, few would pay attention, and the chances of being called crazy would be much higher. There is no channel to directly reach the upper-level leadership. Besides, with only 3 days left, even if they truly believed what I said, little can be done within such limited time, and I would most likely become the target of public criticism for such actions, not to mention whether someone with spatial abilities like me would be taken away for dissection and research. Having lived a second life, I've become selfish. All I want is to live peacefully with my family, so I've decided to meet up with my best friend. After confirming that the space had everything from hemp ropes to knives, I dialed her number. Lily, I've thought it over, and I realize I was indeed wrong. I've figured out how to extract the special ability. I'll be at your place in half an hour. You must wait for me. Okay, you'd better wait for me to come and deal with you. As I opened the car door, the frame bumped against my head. It suddenly occurred to me that since the space can only store inanimate objects, does that mean even living things would die if put inside? I looked at the quail sleeping in the trunk, reaching out to grab one. I silently wheeled it into the space. The quail indeed vanished without a trace. Peering into the inner space, I indeed saw the corpse of the quail. There were still 19 quails left, an inauspicious number, so I reluctantly decided to round it up. I retrieved a wooden stick from the space. This time, instead of grabbing it barehanded, I used the stick to touch it. The chicks were also taken into the space, lifeless. Then, isn't the space a cheat tool that kills without a trace? How foolish was one Lily in her past life to have such a powerful weapon in her hands yet still be tied up and used as a food storage. The speculation was confirmed. I was full of confidence. As long as the other party lacks the truth, it's almost impossible for them to turn the tables on me. My drowsiness vanished instantly, replaced by intense excitement. The usual 30-minute drive took only 20 minutes to reach the rundown apartment building where one Lily rented her place. One Lee lived in a shabby, old house in the urban village, where the walls were thin and soundproofing was poor. I was just about to knock on the door when I overheard the conversation inside. My bestie will be here soon, Brother Chine. I guarantee you'll like her. You promised me, no backing out now. And what I said about the apocalypse is real. One Lily's coquettish laughter came from behind the door. So it seems I've already been sold out. Brother Chine was a member of that perverted squad in the previous life. Under the guise of civilian rescue, they looted supplies from every surviving household. The elderly and children were killed outright, and men who refused to join met the same fate. Women, especially the beautiful ones, were treated as breeding sows, stripped of all dignity. This Brother Chang is a recently released felon who served a heavy sentence. For someone like him, the apocalypse is nothing short of paradise. Who would have thought this trip would yield an unexpected bonus? I raised my hand to knock, and a brief commotion erupted inside before Wan Lily came to open the door. Ching ching, you came so quickly. Come on in, she said. Wan Lily seemed to have forgotten how she threatened me yesterday, greeting me at the door with a beaming smile. Aren't you going to call out the one inside to welcome me together? I crossed my arms, expressionless, with no intention of entering. Brother Chang, who had been observing me from the shadows, grew impatient the moment he saw me. Now that he's been discovered, he still shows no fear. After all, he's a formidable criminal who managed to evade capture for over a decade after committing a series of crimes. What does he have to fear from some inexperienced young girl, brothers? The lady here can't wait any longer. Let's not be shy. Come on out, all of you. As soon as he finished speaking, 5 men emerged, from the wardrobe, the bathroom, and even the kitchen, all unfamiliar faces. But anyone who hangs around with scum like Changji can't be any good. I watched as a group of people approached me with clubs in hand, led by Changji, who sized me up under the light. First, he looked at my face, then my figure, and finally back at my face and figure. He nodded with great satisfaction. Brothers, this chick is hot. Let me have some fun first. No problem, the underlings wouldn't dare say no. Besides, the boss gets the meat first, they'll get the broth later. That's the rule of the streets. They stood menacingly on either side, ready to strike if I dared resist. As he spoke, Brother Chang reached up to grab my waist, trying to pull me into the room. I sidestepped and swiftly closed the door behind me. I pulled out an iron rod from my space and struck them like a drunken master taking down his teacher. All the while, I kept thinking in my mind to withdraw it back into the space. The entire process took less than 15 seconds. The thug who had tormented me for a year in my past life, along with his lackeys, now lay as corpses in my space. Wan Lily, standing nearby, was dumbfounded. She couldn't comprehend how I had managed to make living people disappear. Shouldn't it have been me who was humiliated, then tied up and used as a tool for hoarding supplies, just as she had been in her previous life? Gripping the iron rod, I looked at her with gratitude. Wan Lily's legs gave way, and she immediately knelt on the ground, kowtowing to me repeatedly. Ching ching, please spare me. I know I was wrong. I won't target you anymore. I promise. I definitely won't tell anyone your secret. When people are extremely terrified, they can't even cry. She didn't truly realize her mistake. She was just afraid of dying. Only the dead can keep secrets, isn't that right? I generously told Wan Lily. Didn't you ask me how I made them disappear? It's all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, how could I have been reborn and obtained the space, then used it to kill them? I took the bodies out of the space and showed them to her. All right, now that you know, you can set off with peace of mind. Before Wan Lily could utter her plea, I had already pulled her into the space with me. If the roots are not removed, the weeds will grow back with the spring breeze. Only by eliminating the troublemaker could I truly feel at ease. Thinking of my past life, Wan Lily could easily retrieve supplies to crush me to death. Then I can also store some sufficiently heavy items in my space as backup, as long as the area is open enough. I wouldn't even need to lift a finger to deal with those terrorists. I drove to the abandoned parking lot. I've collected quite a few scrap trucks and cars. In terms of weight alone, the trucks definitely have enough tonnage. When I returned to the hotel, I received a message from my parents saying they were taking turns resting in the air raid shelter while supervising the workers' construction, and wouldn't be coming back tonight. They also reminded me to rest well and go directly there tomorrow at noon. I took stock of the supplies in the space to ensure nothing was left behind. When I woke up in the morning, I spent the remaining 3,000 yuan and bought a pile of breakfast. After completing the checkup procedures, I went to the air raid shelter to meet up with my parents. The air raid shelter was built on the mountain and was originally intended as an emergency refuge. A fortune was spent on reinforcement, making it virtually impregnable. By the time I arrived, the construction crew had already cleared the renovation debris, handed over the project, and left. Mom and Dad were busy cleaning up. The entrance was spacious enough for me to drive my van right in. I took out steaming hot soup dumplings and soy milk with fried dough sticks from my space to serve my parents for breakfast. Then I checked the facilities in the bomb shelter. The cave is 3 meters high, 5 meters wide, and 70 meters long. It extends horizontally into the mountain from the entrance. The left side is planned as the living area, with 2 bedrooms, followed by the kitchen, living room, and bathroom. The right side is the work area, featuring a monitoring room, storage room, planting area, and breeding area. I took out some long-lasting vegetables, dry food, and drinking water from the space and placed them in the storage room. Dad and I then emptied the water tank, carried it off the vehicle, and installed it in the breeding area. The rabbits and quails showed strong adaptability, hopping around energetically within the enclosure after our family finished the big cleanup. We took out the thick blankets and quilts, waiting for the arrival of the extreme cold apocalypse. It's late May now, and for most regions, temperatures have already started to rise. In the southern regions, many people had already switched to shorts and t-shirts early on, so on the day of the sudden temperature drop, they were the ones who suffered the most. Many people died from extreme cold while sleeping with their air conditioners and fans turned on. After having some home-cooked stir-fry for dinner, we sat in the living room scrolling through our phones and chatting. Around 8 p.m., the temperature drop began in Heilongjiang province, plummeting from 3 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees Celsius in just half an hour. The cold wave then continued to advance, crossing the Qinling Mountains and moving further south. Even the southern Cheong Island saw temperatures drop from 17 degrees to minus 20 degrees Celsius. People hurriedly pulled out their winter quilts from the bottom of their wardrobes. They rummaged through their closets to find and put on down jackets. They switched their air conditioners to heating mode. I watched the short video platform, where a crowd on one Lily's account was calling her a master. They urged her to start a live stream, asking her what they should do and how long the temperature drop would last. Unfortunately, they won't get to hear from her. However, thanks to one Lily's warning, many people realized that this temperature drop was not ordinary. Wrapped in a down jacket, I went to the supermarket to stock up on supplies. On the phone's weather forecast, the originally predicted temperatures for the next 15 days were replaced with a low temperature warning. The evening news also urgently broadcasted the arrival of a cold wave, reminding the public to stock up on supplies and avoid going out unless necessary. Companies and schools also announced overnight the suspension of work and classes. The temperature continued to drop until it stabilized at minus 50 degrees Celsius at 4 a.m. On short video platforms, users with IP addresses in Cheong Island posted videos of heavy snowfall resembling goose feathers. In the northeast province region, hailstones as large as eggs fell directly. Not a single car parked by the roadside was spared. Pedestrians who ventured out to stock up on supplies were struck down by the hail, unable to rise again. The worst off were those trapped on highways, trains, and airplanes. Trains were halted, flights were grounded, and news reports were filled with accounts of countless plane crashes. Across the nation, the sharp drop in temperatures was accompanied by heavy snowfall. Everything visible on the ground was covered in snow, the pure white snow. At this moment, chilled everyone to the bone, but I knew this was only the beginning. If we didn't take advantage of this day to search for supplies, things would only get harder from here. Mom and Dad felt very distressed watching the disaster scenes reported on the news. They could sit by the fireplace, drinking hot milk tea, all thanks to their daughter. The ventilation in the air raid shelter was excellent. Burning charcoal for warmth wouldn't cause carbon monoxide poisoning. Mom handed me a jewelry box, filled to the brim with gold ornaments. Sweetheart, these are the dowry your father and I have saved for you every year since you were born, along with our family's entire savings. No matter when, gold is always a solid currency. You must keep it safe. To be a parent is to plan far ahead for one's child. Holding the weighty jewelry box, I was embraced in my mother's arms. The outdoor temperature had already dropped to minus 43 degrees Celsius, while indoors it remained around 10 degrees Celsius. I brought 2 extra thick quilts for my parents just in case. None of us dared to sleep tonight. In the end, it was only after I acted cute and spoiled that my parents agreed to go back to their bedroom to rest. The backup power in the bomb shelter is dwindling with every use. We all know it's not yet time to turn on the air conditioning. The heavy snow lasted all night, and property management in many residential areas began organizing residents to shovel the snow. Last night, I laid tarps near the entrance and ventilation openings. Just by touching the tarps, all the snow can be collected into the space. The melted snow can also be used to flush toilets and water the crops. Most importantly, it saves the labor of all 3 family members. I put on my down jacket, hat, gloves, and goggles, then went outside to shovel snow. Even so, stepping out still felt bone-chillingly cold. I opened the door quietly, but my parents still woke up startled from their sleep. I hurried to close the door after finishing, but just that brief time outside was enough for the cold clinging to my clothes to condense into water droplets. My parents told me to rest while they busied themselves in the kitchen. Mom planned to make more steamed buns and dumplings, along with some fresh noodles, to store in the space. As the weather gets colder, they can be easily taken out for meals when we don't feel like cooking. The frozen foods I had stocked up were considered pre-made meals by my parents, and therefore unhealthy. Dad went to the planting area to sow some baby bok choy and lettuce, using the outer old leaves of the cabbage to feed the rabbits. The quail is quite impressive, laying 2 clutches of eggs on the very first day after moving to its new home. After keeping watch all night, I let my guard down and comfortably fell asleep on the soft, warm bed. When I woke up, it was already 1 p.m. The filling prepared by Dad and the buns wrapped by Mom emitted an enticing aroma from the steamer. I washed my hands clean, picked up a steaming bun, and stuffed it into my mouth. The skin was thin, the filling was juicy, and it was my favorite flavor, cumin onion beef. In my previous life, I was trapped in a hotel and had to survive by drinking melted snow every day just to stay alive. Happiness is largely a matter of comparison. After dinner, Dad went to the monitoring room for his shift, while Mom and I followed an online instructor on the tablet to learn the 8-section brocade exercises. To survive in the apocalypse, you must have a strong body. For lunch, we had a clay pot stew with ribs and chicken, accompanied by side dishes like potatoes, dried string beans, and aged tofu. The tofu soaked up all the broth, and the potatoes were soft and tender. Just as I was about to take a nap, I saw through the surveillance cameras a group of people lingering near the bomb shelter. This family must know something, that's why they're spending extra to build a shelter. I see the gate is closed, there must be someone inside. The bald middle-aged man speaking was the same renovation worker from the day before yesterday. With him were several other workers and their accompanying family members. Each one of them was as sturdy as a bear. They all lived in the town at the foot of the mountain. After the sudden temperature drop yesterday, his son told him that an online prophecy master had revealed the coming of the apocalypse. The house had little stored food, let alone any supplies to ward off the cold. Besides, his son was right. Once the water, electricity, and internet collapsed, everyone would be driven to desperation, and looting and killing would surely follow. Since they knew there was a fat pig to be had, they should strike first. Otherwise, once others caught on, they wouldn't even get a chance to touch a single bristle. The bald man remembered that during construction, the supervising couple had accidentally let slip that they had another daughter. Counting carefully, there were only 3 people in the shelter. With over 20 of them armed with professional door-breaking tools, they could storm in and claim the place as their own. Dad, sharp-eyed, recognized the bald man from the surveillance footage. Xiaoqing. He's the worker who came for construction the day before yesterday. Who would have thought that in just one day, he'd bring so many people to our doorstep? Mom also worriedly grasped my hand, her face filled with concern. What should we do? If they kept a spare key when they were doing the renovations, we'd be in danger. I opened the ventilation window on the door, took out the slingshot from the space, held the steel pellet, and aimed at the bald man. He then released his grip, shooting at a tree half a meter away from him. First warning, if he retreats with his men, I don't want to resort to violence in front of my parents. Unexpectedly, the bald guy was fearless. Seeing their tracks exposed, he immediately called the workers with him to forcibly break down the door. I had cleared the snow to prevent the door from being blocked, but it ended up making things easier for them, since they're so eager to die. I'll grant them their wish. The 4 walked to the door, opened their toolbox, and began removing it. Through the door's surveillance, I saw them leaning against it, each making contact with the surface. With just a thought, I pulled all 4 into the space through the iron door and instantly released their corpses. My parents watched my actions, so nervous they started stuttering. Xiaoqing, from now on when Mom and Dad hug you, you'll have to control your thoughts. I felt a bit helpless. Even though their daughter killed someone right in front of them, they didn't blame me for being cold-blooded. Dad could tell what I was thinking and became serious. Sweetheart, it's the end of the world now. None of us can afford to be overly compassionate. If you hadn't acted, once they broke in, they wouldn't have spared us either. Mom and I won't blame you. Understand. Dad gently stroked my head with his broad palm, speaking earnestly to guide me. The woman and child still crouching outside, waiting for the man to break down the door, rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Did they just hallucinate? Why does it feel like her husband disappeared for a second before suddenly collapsing? How bizarre. Could there be a monster living inside? A group of people pushed and shoved each other, wanting to send someone over to see if the bald man was dead. I've already given them a chance, but they didn't cherish it. Several abandoned trucks were released from space and hurled toward the crowd. The sound of wailing continued until it grew weaker and weaker. I opened the door and stored the toolbox in the space. I didn't look back at the person crushed by the truck. They were all elderly, children, and women, injured and in the freezing snow, with no chance of survival. In the following days, the temperature dropped even lower. Even Hainan Island has reached -60 degrees Celsius. The duration of snowfall is getting longer, and the rate of snow accumulation is faster than people can shovel it. Most households lack goggles, and the number of people suffering from snow blindness is increasing. The authorities acted swiftly, opening numerous relief shelters by the 3rd day of the extreme temperature drop, but the heavy snow blocked the roads, and a place that could originally be reached by car in half a day now took at least half a month to reach when traveling with the whole family in tow. This was still considered lucky, as they didn't die along the way. This shows how severe the punishment of exile to Ninguda was in ancient times. Before the complete collapse of the internet, a blogger with a profile introducing themselves as the young master of the Heavenly Palace and a blank avatar uploaded a video on the website. The content showcased extreme wealth flaunting. Inside a resplendent villa, the fireplace burned with warm flames. At a time when most people had no surplus food, the young master fed his dog with leftover steak. Soaking in a massive hot spring pool, surrounded by bikini-clad young models feeding grapes mouth to mouth. At the end, the young master still seemed unsatisfied, heading to the basement to reveal a warehouse fully stocked with supplies. 5 minutes after the video was posted, the account was deleted, but netizens didn't forget. Someone recorded the screen and publicly collected the blogger's information online. Many hands make light work. In less than an hour, the young master's home address and family background were completely exposed. The comment section was filled with netizens clamoring to go to his house to beg for alms. This scared off those bloggers who had previously posted subtle, smug content, causing them to delete their accounts overnight. No matter what kind of environment, there will always be such foolish people. Criminals rack their brains, yet they can't match a sudden flash of inspiration, it must be said. Netizens' efficiency is truly impressive. The next morning, over 2,000 people spontaneously gathered to surround the young master's villa. People kept coming in a steady stream. Some carried axes, others hammers and chainsaws, and a few even had compound bows. When the villa's security system activated and the electric fence went live, it only stunned a batch of them. Those who came later to tear down the walls were already wearing insulated gloves from the watchtowers inside the walls. Bodyguards fired shots and arrows continuously, trying to drive back the mob, but there were just too many people. The bodyguards ran out of bullets, yet the crowd showed no sign of thinning. It was as if they couldn't be killed fast enough. Seizing the moment while the bodyguards were reloading, a man with a compound bow shot a perfect headshot. This boosted the morale of the rioters. Someone cut down trees along the roadside, lit a fire to dry out the moisture, and made simple ladders. The first to enter opened the villa's gate, and then everyone rushed in. When they broke into the villa, they saw a group of well-dressed people packing gold bars, preparing to escape through an underground passage. The mob was already fired up, and at this moment, their eyes turned red with rage. Why do they struggle their whole lives without earning even a fraction of what these people make? Meanwhile, the sons they protect behind them are born into wealth and luxury. An entire family was hacked beyond recognition, including the dog that appeared in the video. Perhaps in this extreme, apocalyptic cold, with no one working, such bloody videos can still be uploaded to the platform. I look at the bowl of savory tofu pudding drenched in spicy red oil, feeling a bit hesitant to take a bite. After half a month of extreme cold, water and electricity systems have collapsed in most areas. The number of refugees taken in by the official shelters has far exceeded reasonable capacity. In a small shelter of just over 30 square meters, 20 people are crammed together eating and sleeping. The official announcement stated that they would temporarily stop accepting refugees. However, they promised to deploy troops to deliver supplies and urged people not to lose hope. I live with my parents in a spacious bomb shelter, where we eat, drink, and sleep every day. Several groups of reckless people tried to target us, but I ended up taking them all into my space. I left all the corpses along the road to the shelter. Those with any sense would naturally take a detour upon seeing them. By March of the following year, the extreme cold still raged on. My mom used to be a history teacher, and fearing she might get bored, I pulled out some books I'd grabbed while stocking up. To my surprise, she became utterly obsessed with time travel novels, cursing the authors for disrespecting history while getting completely absorbed in the stories, her heart aching for the tormented heroine. My usually strong father seemed a bit downcast instead. I took out the skiing gear from the space and occasionally went skiing with my dad. The farming area in the bomb shelter had already taken shape on a large scale. There were hydroponic greens, melons, and tomatoes, as well as thriving cabbages and potatoes planted in soil. For meat, rabbits kept breeding, giving birth to over 70 baby rabbits within half a year. Dad turned them into spicy diced rabbit, perfect for pairing with alcohol. With ample supplies stored in our space, our family didn't need to skimp on food. For breakfast, we had steamed buns or small wontons, accompanied by soy milk. A standard home-cooked lunch with 4 dishes and a soup. In the afternoon, you can even have some dessert and milk tea as a snack. Not having to work and being able to stay home reasonably is simply too good for a homebody. April 28th, the temperature finally started to rise. In just 2 days, the temperature rose from -50 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. On the 3rd day, it soared directly to 30 degrees Celsius. The rapid melting of snow triggered a new wave of high-temperature floods and apocalyptic disasters across the nation. The urban drainage systems were completely overwhelmed. with ground-level residences submerged outright and low-lying rural areas transformed into vast expanses of water. I swapped the heavy woolen blankets with cooling mats together with my parents, took off the down jackets, and put on short sleeves. When it's cold, you can always layer up to keep warm, but when it gets hot, no matter how little you wear, you still feel uncomfortably warm. Even leftover food must be stored in the refrigerator, or it will spoil the same day. When the temperature outside the bomb shelter reached 50 degrees Celsius, I enjoyed the air conditioning while savoring the chilled mung bean soup my mom made to beat the heat. The extreme heat caused the decay of various plants and animals, while floods spread viruses everywhere. Clean drinking water became the most sought-after resource. People can endure hunger, but without water, they cannot survive beyond 7 days, especially under high temperatures. Severe dehydration can occur after just 3 days without water. Many survivors who endured the extreme cold ultimately didn't make it. Fortunately, it seems nature wasn't intent on driving humanity to extinction. The high-temperature apocalypse lasted only a month before temperatures returned to normal thresholds. The authorities have begun large-scale efforts to recover bodies, conduct disinfection, and search for survivors. The inherent national cohesion of the Chinese people binds every compatriot closely together. By August, all cities above the third-tier level had completed disinfection and post-disaster reconstruction. Every surviving individual can apply for a housing unit. My parents and I were even allocated a large flat in downtown Beijing as a direct result of our active involvement in disaster relief efforts. The end.